all the pain from you. Maybe together we'll share a simple smile. I felt alone as you now do. The hurt so great, no light gets through. You were there for me, now I for you. Pain much less when shared by two. No greater love than this. Without you, God's love on this. Together, we're all in bliss. Oh, I feel your pain, I see you weep. I hear you whimpering in your sleep. No need alone for you to keep such sadness deep in your heart. I'm here by your side, to lend a hand, a shoulder to cry, an arm to help stand, something to fall for you when you land. I'm here when dreams fall apart. Give my heart to you. All I want to do is take your hand and be with you a while. I know I can't remove all the pain from you. Maybe together we'll share a simple smile. Going home to be with the Father. Going home before this life is done. Home to merge with the Mother. Return this prodigal one. I can't go without sister, brother. Cannot go home alone. Can't go till I see another's joy and pain as my own. I give my heart to you. All I want to do is take your hand and be with you a while. I know I can't remove all the pain from you. Maybe together we'll share a simple smile. Maybe together we'll make it all worthwhile.
Yay! Thank you, Tom, for composing and performing that lovely prelude. And welcome to the Berkeley Fellowship of Unitarian Universalists. This is our second ever online service and our first on Zoom. I'm Paikea, and I will be your worship associate for today. No? Conducting services online is a novel, exciting, and challenging adventure for all of us. Many faith communities are putting their services online, as this time of stress is when loving connections are most needed. Going online is a way of keeping our members as safe and healthy as possible, while still helping emotional and spiritual well-being by offering a place to get together. Everyone you'll see on your screen today is in their own homes, safe and sound. Please remember to keep your hearts open, although the doors of our congregation are closed. Let's hope this service will remind us that they're all in this situation together, whether or not we're in the same room, and we'll all get through it together. Our bonds are forged by memories of shared worship services and activism to create a better world for all. And now you'll hear a special welcome from Ira X. Armstrong, the president of BFUU's board. They are not only a lifelong third-generation Unitarian Universalist, but also a parent of fourth-generation UUs. Go ahead, Ira.
One of the things that I often do in these contexts is check my own breathing, and I'm just going to ask us all, as we're experiencing this new platform and experience, to take a moment to breathe. And when I breathe in peace. When I breathe out love.
And now, Reverend Dr. Carrie Knowles will lead us into our sacred hour together with our opening words.
These words are from Lynn, Ungar. Imagine with me for a moment. Don't worry, I'm not saying it's real. Imagine, if you can, that there's been not a calamity, but a great awakening. Pretend, just for a moment, that we all so loved our threatened Earth that we stopped going on cruises or international flights. We worked on cherishing the places where we already are. Imagine, if you will, that we turned to our neighbors in mutual aid, checking in on those who are elderly or alone. Imagine that each of us felt suddenly called to wonder. In this moment, what does the world need from me? What are my gifts? And now the chalice lighting.
Yeah, now Joanna will lead us in the chalice lighting.
Let love be the spirit of this congregation and service its goal. This is our living covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in life, and to help one another. And now let us light our red candle. Micaiah, I don't have the words in front of me. Can you read the red candle lighting?
I can do it.
Okay.
And now I light the red candle. We light our red candle to honor and memorialize Black lives taken too soon by police violence and institutional racism, to proclaim that Black lives matter and to express hope for a future without racism and violence. And now our first hymn, number 99, Nobody Knows the Trouble I've Seen, will be led by Jeff Palmer and Margaret.
Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Nobody knows my sorrow. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Glory, hallelujah. Sometimes I'm up, sometimes I'm down. Oh, yes, Lord. Sometimes I'm almost to the ground. Oh, yes, Lord. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Nobody knows my sorrow. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Glory, hallelujah. Although you see me going lost, so, oh yes, Lord. I have my troubles, fear me though, oh yes, Lord. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Nobody knows my sorrow. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Glory, hallelujah. One day when I was walking along, oh yes, Lord, the heavens broke and love came down. Oh yes, Lord. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Nobody knows my sorrow. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Glory, hallelujah.
Yay, thank you. And now Dr. Susan will present the time for all ages.
So thank you so much, Jeff and Margaret. That song comes to the African American tradition, and it has to do with how sometimes we can go through hard times and feel really down, but then when you least expect it, the heavens can open and we can feel hope and light come shining through. So I'd like to tell you for the Time for All Ages about a story I read in the Berkeley News where they talked with Dr. John Swartzberg about the coronavirus. And James Blanchard will be helping with this. I am not a medical doctor, but I have a PhD in biology, and I used to work in science research. So I've gotten really good at finding out information from experts. One thing you want to do when reading an article is to see if the publication is credible and it's not going to give you fake news. This story is from the Berkeley News. This publication has been around. It's commonly read in Berkeley, and it doesn't have a lot of weird ads plastered all over it. So, okay, that sounds good. Next, I look at the author and see what kind of background and education they have. Let's see. Dr. Schwartzberg has a medical degree, and he is an expert in infectious disease and vaccinology. So he knows all about vaccines and preventing the spread of disease, and was a professor at UC Berkeley and UCSF. Sounds good to me. Okay, let's see what he says. Dr. Schwartzberg says that the coronavirus causes disease that is very similar to the flu, usually with body aches, fever, and a cough. So now, James, you know that the coronavirus is out there, and it's very much like the flu, but is more contagious, and we don't know how far it spread. You've just woken up and have body aches, and you feel hot, and you're coughing. You're coughing. Coughing, James. How are you feeling, James?
Not great. It's worrisome, and I feel hotter than I should, and my throat's really irritated.
Oh boy. So Dr. Schwartzberg says the thing you want to look out for during this time is for shortness of breath, which is something that the coronavirus can cause. So now, James, you don't feel short of breath, but you know that the coronavirus is out there, and you know it's more contagious than the regular flu. So what emotions are you feeling?
Feel really relieved that I'm not short of breath, because that would worry me even further.
Right, okay. So, but what to do? Do you have the flu? What to do? Do you have the flu? If you have flu-like symptoms, Dr. Schwartzberg recommends calling your doctor's office. They may have you get a rapid influenza test so they can tell if you have the regular flu. If so, there's a drug to treat it. And if the flu test is negative, they may want you to get tested for COVID-19, the coronavirus. So now, James, you call your doctor and they tell you to go get tested for the flu. Later, you get a phone call and they tell you you have the flu. How do you feel now, James?
Never been so happy to hear I've gotten the flu in all my life.
You have the flu. Isn't that terrific? Oh, that's such good news. Currently, the coronavirus has caused more than 22,000 cases and 278 deaths in the US. Now, that may sound like a lot, 278, but you might not know that last year, the flu, the regular flu, caused 34,000 deaths in the US. The fatality rate from the coronavirus is probably about 3.4%, said Dr. Schwartzberg. So the vast majority of people who get it won't die. So everyone, let's not panic. That can just make it worse. Some think that this rate isn't much higher than the regular flu, but like the flu, older people, especially those in their 70s, 80s, and over, and people with underlying health conditions, are much more likely to get hit harder and even die from it. So they should be especially careful. The flu killed 34,000 people in the US last year, as I mentioned, and so far the coronavirus has only killed 278. So, 34,000 versus 278. So why are we worried about the coronavirus? And why don't we shelter at home for the flu every year? Well, one difference is that with the coronavirus, there's a longer period of time when it's contagious, but folks don't know they have it, so they can spread it to more people. We also don't have a good vaccine for it yet, and if it spreads too quickly before people have become immune to it, it could end up spreading to more older people with health problems who could actually end up dying. So that's one reason why we're doing the home sheltering. Also, unlike the past, our hospitals now have fewer empty beds to deal with large influxes of new patients. So if a lot of patients get sick all at once, it may easily overwhelm our hospitals, and we may not have enough respirators, which is sometimes needed to give patients oxygen. So what we're doing is we're trying to slow down the rate at which the disease spreads so everyone who needs it can get treatment at a hospital. Dr. Schwartzberg says it's difficult to tell how widespread the disease is because of lack of testing that can also help us track and quarantine patients. He says there's no excuse for our nation's government officials not to have acted more quickly to develop testing and make it widely available. Maybe you could call or write to your elected representatives and ask them to have more tests available now. I did, and so did several friends I know. So James, how about calling your representatives while I finish up the story? So what to do? What to do? Do you have the flu? What to do? Do you have the flu? Dr. Schwartzberg and other experts say, hey, James, are you calling your representatives?
I'm going to do it as soon as services are over.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, Dr. Sir. Well, if you want to, no you have to do anything they don't want to, but it might be a good idea. Dr. Schwartzberg and other experts say that if you have flu-like symptoms, call your doctor. They may want you to get a flu test first so that we have enough coronavirus tests for those who really need it. And it might end up being you, who knows? So if you don't feel well, also it's a good idea to stay in a different room in your house, in your home, away from other people in your household, if possible, since the virus is very contagious. And don't forget to keep washing your hands frequently, at least 20 seconds. Try to get in the habit of not touching your face and maintain physical distancing, but keep your social connections. So thank you, James. And aren't you happy that you have the flu?
Awesome.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Now, do our healing ritual. During our healing ritual, we contemplate the feelings and experiences of the past week and finding those which are perhaps too tender to speak aloud. We normally find a stone to each represent what is in our heart and immerse it into the water, which represents us as a community. This service, we can all place our joys and sorrows into the stones that Joanna will place for us in the stones in her video, as she immerses the stone in the water of our community. Yay, thank you. And now Doug will lead us in the meta meditation.
May I be saved, may I be well, may I know joy, may I be free, may you be safe, may you be well, may you know joy, may you be free, may they be safe, may they be well, may they know joy, may they be free, may all be safe, may all be well, may all know joy, may all be free.
Thank you. Now, please, our second hymn is number 21 for the beauty of the earth, which will be led by James.
For the beauty of the earth, for the splendor of the skies, for the love which from our birth over and around us lies, source of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise. For the joy of ear and eye, for the heart and mind's delight, for the mystic harmony, linking sense and sound and sight. Source of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise. For the wonder of each hour, of the day and of the night, hill and vale and tree and flower, sun and moon and stars of light, source of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise. For the joy of human care, sister, brother, parent, child, for the kinship we all share, for all gentle thoughts and mild, source of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise.
Now Virginia will read a prose poem, and the people stayed home, by Kitty O'Meara, which was found for us by Kathy Reilly.
Right. And the people stayed home and read books and listened and rested and exercised and made art and played games and learned new ways of being and were still and listened more deeply. Some meditated, some prayed, some danced, some met their shadows. And the people began to think differently, and the people healed. And in the absence of people living in ignorant, dangerous, mindless, and heartless ways, the earth began to heal. And when the danger passed and the people joined together again, they grieved their losses and made new choices and dreamed new images and created new ways to live and heal the earth fully as they had been healed. We got permission to put this poem into our online service from Kitty O'Meara herself. We went to her website and asked for permission, and she joyfully gave us permission and wished us well in this service.
Okay, thank you. And now, as we share our responsibility for the spiritual home which we are creating together, Amy will provide the musical background. There are options this morning for how to give your pledges and offerings. They can be sent by mail, a check to BFUU, 1606 Bonita Avenue, Berkeley, zip code 94709. Or you can use PayPal to send it to office@bfuu.org. Or you can put aside your donation in an envelope by our computer to bring when we resume our in-person services.
And now please join me in reading the offering dedication, which is found in your order of service.
To the work of this fellowship, which is creating beloved community within and beyond these walls, we dedicate ourselves and these our offerings. And improvisational harp music by Dr. Susan will be our musical reflection today.
Reverend Dr. Carrie will now share us her message for today, Love in Time of Novel Coronavirus.
Thank you. And greetings, everyone. Once upon a time, a long time ago in the year 2019, there lived in far-off China a Fledermaus, a little mammal with wings, called in English a bat. And this little creature, who liked to hang upside down in a cave to sleep by day and feast on fish and bugs, really enjoyed an incredible immune system and never got sick. One day in late autumn, this bat met a new virus and came up with its first-rate lightning-fast immune response. The bat never got sick, while the happy virus ramped itself up with new powers inside the bat until it was a superstar. That fancy virus, with the little crown-shaped thorns all over its surface, wonderfully multiplied while the bat flew around and ate his fish. And then some of these viruses hopped into a pangolin and multiplied some more. And then lots of the viruses hopped inside a couple of 100,000 of us humans with our low-grade 10th rate immune systems. And now those bugs we call coronaviruses have taken over the world. Ring around the rosy, a pocket full of posies. Achoo, achoo. We all fall down. Never have we been farther apart, yet closer together than in this time when our country, like all the nations on our earth, is stunned with the coronavirus pandemic. So much that we look to that brings us side by side in community has now been canceled or suspended until final notice, further notice. Schools and colleges, concerts, sports events, restaurants and bars, stores, museums, theme parks, fitness centers, weddings and funerals, all events and places that bring people face to face and side by side have announced their closure. Churches and synagogues and mosques have canceled their live services. Businesses, clubs, volunteer organizations are closing down their meetings and spaces. Now we're directed to keep our social distance from each other, to seek separation, to isolate ourselves, to shelter in place. Travel ends as nations close their borders, as passengers recognize the dangers of airplanes and cruise ships. We call for quarantine for those facing the worst, for people known to be exposed to the virus that's taken over our world. As I write, each moment the numbers climb. As I updated this talk, we have more than 300,000 cases in the world and counting, and more than 13,000 deaths worldwide. The United States now has the 4th largest number of confirmed cases in the world, after China, Italy, and Spain. And our 27,000 cases are counting now, and we still lack enough testing kits to come up with the true numbers. Never have we been more in need of understanding exponential growth. Infections are doubling about every 3 days. By early next week, we will have passed 50,000 cases. We've no idea how long this invasion of the virus will go on, nor what success our strategies of separation and containment may have. Will spring weather change the sturdiness of the coronavirus? Nobody knows, not even that flying mouse in China. Yet, never have we been closer to every other human on earth. My daughters reach out to me from Texas and Monterey, California, and Seattle. People I need and people who need me are in touch with me in techie ways that let us see each other as we speak. Beyond these close encounters, I hear my brothers and sisters in every corner of the earth. No one of us in any land that lives out of harm's way. On my way to pick up essential food earlier this week, the world about me was nearly unrecognizable. I saw so few cars. I had the road almost to myself. The food market was guarding its stores, allowing customers to come in only as others left, to keep the total inside under 100. I could buy only 4 cans of cat food instead of my usual 10. At least I wouldn't get the store's shelves bare. I wondered if I'd ever in my life lived through such a crisis as this one, and changes every sphere of life. Yes, I remember dramatic changes in the weather when snowstorms closed New York and Boston, but these blizzards lasted maybe a week, not months. I remember when I was living in Bangkok, the capital of Thailand, in the 1970s, a military coup closed the country for a few months. Bangkok was in lockdown, so my office, where I practiced psychology, was shuttered. All the schools in the country were closed. So I took my 2 kids and headed for the beaches of Phuket down the coast, where nobody was paying much attention to the coup. Kind neighbors tolerated my broken conversational tie, and together we celebrated the starlit nights with local Singha beer. Now, the coup pulled off by this coronavirus has captured our planet, not just some, and we can't even get together and party with our beer and wine. What shall we do? It's time to remember, if we have children home from school, they'll have a special new, surprising relationship with their mom or dad, who without warning has become a homebody with magical things to say and sing and stir fry. It's time to remember and listen through the hours to the music that always has brought pleasure and peace. It's time to remember that in every plague that endangered mankind, there were still those with the strength to survive and tell the tale. It's time to remember that we always have had heroes who stood tall to care for those suffering from the plagues, who spoke the truth to power, no matter what the cost. Let's hold in our hearts the young doctor, Li Wenliang, who first raised the alarm about the coronavirus in the early days of that outbreak. Back in December 2019, he sent a message to fellow doctors in a chat group to warn them of the outbreak and advising them to wear protective clothing to avoid infection. 4 days later, he was called to the Public Security Bureau and forced to sign a letter in which he was accused of, quote, making false comments that had severely disturbed the social order. From the letter, this quote, "If you keep being stubborn with such impertinence and continue this illegal activity, you will be brought to justice." Then Dr. Lee began having symptoms himself with fever and coughing, and by mid-January he was in bed in the hospital. It took 10 days more, January 20th, until China declared the outbreak of an emergency. Dr. Lee died of the virus February 7th, 2020, at the young age of 33. A hero of truth. Now in America, dozens of healthcare workers have fallen ill with COVID-19. More are quarantined after exposure. This week, 2 members of Congress diagnosed with the coronavirus, raising the question if our lawmakers can meet in the halls of government. As we go it alone, it's time to remember that the trees are there for us, so many blossoming in the sun of early spring. It's time to remember that the sea, whether it's blue or gray, will go on tossing its waves up on the shore as it has been for thousands of years. It's time to remember that we are part of every living thing. Lynn Ungar, our UU minister and poet, knows what we need to do. She wrote in her poem, Pandemic, "What if you thought of it as the Jews consider the Sabbath, the most sacred of times? Cease from travel, cease from buying and selling. Give up, just for now, on trying to make the world different than it is. Sing, pray, touch only those to whom you commit your life. Center down, and when your body has become still, reach out with your heart. Know that we are connected in ways that are terrifying and beautiful. You could hardly deny it now. Know that our lives are in one another's hands. Surely that's come clear. Do not reach out with your hands. Reach out with your heart. Reach out with your words. Reach out with all the tendrils of compassion that move invisibly where we cannot touch. Promise this world your love, for better or for worse, in sickness and in health, so long as we all shall live. May it be so.
Thank you, Reverend Carrie, for that sermon. As always, your message uplifts with poetry and facts. And now I would like to thank all who contributed to the service this Sunday. Dr. Susan, who is the main organizer for the service by Zoom, Joanna for her leadership, writing, and coaching work, Susan Mackey, all the singers, musicians, and readers, and my worship associate, Ava. Thanks also to fellow congregants like Caitlin, Cal, and Michael Simpkins, our IT consultant, who played a behind-the-scenes role in bringing some up to speed on using Zoom. And thank you, of course, to Ira and Doug for their leadership and ideas. The service will also be available on YouTube later. Please invite your friends and family to take a look, and thank you all very much.
You can find the announcements in your e-news. Most important is that all activities at BFUU are shut down until the shelter-in-place mandate is lifted. That may be April 7th or later. The board will continue to assess the situation as events unfold and will keep you informed. We will stay connected through the communicator, our newsletter, as it will hit your inbox as usual.
And the feedback, we don't have a feedback form set up yet, but so just post your feedback in the chat and we will save a stash of cookies as your reward for filling out the form, and we can give it to you when we next get back together in person.
That our fall hymn, that what wondrous love is this, with slightly modified lyrics, will be led by Susan Mashiyama, by Dr. Susan.
The modified lyrics are on verse 3, so I invite you to sing along. What wondrous love is this? What wondrous love is this, oh my soul, oh my soul? What wondrous love is this, oh my soul? What wondrous love is this that caused to us such bliss, to send this precious peace to my soul, to my soul, to send this precious peace to my soul. Ye winged seraphs fly, bear the news, bear the news. Ye winged seraphs fly, bear the news. Ye winged seraphs fly like comets through the sky, fill a vast eternity with the news, with the news. Fill vast eternity with the news. To science and to love I will sing, I will sing. To science and to love I will sing. To science and to love our spirits we uphold, while millions join the theme. I will sing, I will sing. While millions join the theme, I will sing. To knowledge and to love our spirits we uphold, while millions join the theme. We will sing, we will sing. While millions join the theme, we will sing.
Thank you. And now it is time to extinguish our chalice. We extinguish the flame of this chalice, but not the warmth of love, the light of truth, or the energy of service. These we carry in our hearts until we meet again. And now for our closing, please picture the circle that we always create, standing around the fellowship hall and holding hands as we sing our circle chant. And Tom will lead our closing song, Circle Round for Freedom.
Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us in prison, circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children, keep the circle.
With what benediction shall I leave you? This, in your life, may you know the holy meaning, the mystery that breaks into it every moment. May you live at peace with your world and at peace with yourself. And may the love of truth guide you in your everyday. Amen. Namaste.
Namaste.
Yay, thank you, everyone. This will stay open for a little while longer if you want to unmute and turn on your video and chat for our coffee hour. And the chat is open too. Yay.